Okay, welcome to day 12. Today we are going to talk about understanding credit. Our next steps are going to be how to build your credit, but before you build credit, you need to understand it, how it's calculated, what are the important factors of it, because literally the building part of the credit is not difficult to do. It's not difficult at all to learn, but it's just the consistency of continuing to do it. Some of the things you can do instantly, some of the things may take a little bit more time. But first, let's start off with understanding credit itself. It is probably one of the most important things that you'll have in your life is your good credit score. So let's understand where that comes from. Okay, first part of your credit score, your payment history. This is the most important component and makes up 35% of your score. So, what is your payment history? Okay, how well you pay your bills. This is a third of your score. All right, this is a big factor. So, the key to that is obviously make sure you pay your bills and you pay them on time. This is the history of it. This is what creditors want to see. People who are going to borrow you money want to make sure that you're going to pay the money back with interest. And the only way they can find out if you are is through your payment history and how well you've been paying bills. If you haven't, if you had trouble with it, there's things that you can do. One, you can start now, right now, making sure you pay your bills on time. Two, you can also write an explanation that you attach to your credit report where I showed you how to do that earlier. Explain why. Maybe there was medical reasons or whatever, but at least give an explanation to it. And probably the most important part is to literally get started now. Start making your payments now. If you can't afford anything, that's why the budget section of this was so important that you took your time to go through that. And if you're underwater with the budget and you don't have enough cash to pay your bills, then you need to lower your bills or downsize somehow. That is the most important thing. Your payment history makes up the majority of your. The next section, the amount of debt you owe, make up 30% of your score. Almost another third is how much you owe people. So, mortgages, car payments, credit cards, student loans. If you owe a lot of money, your score cannot be increased. That's why I recommend destroy your debt, the debt reduction plan and the debt reduction class to pay down your debt. Not only will you be paying down your debt and creating financial freedom, but you'll be building your credit score in the meantime. And we have a strategic plan for this section of it that we're going to go over one day of how to pay down your debt because it's a third and will probably take more than one class on paying it down and why you should do it. It builds it up. This builds your payment history while you pay down debt. So right there you could get 65% of your credit score increase by doing a couple things. One, paying your bills on time, and two, paying a little extra towards your bills to get that debt paid down. We'll do that in detail. The next is the length of your credit history, which makes up 15% of your score. What if you don't have a long credit history? What if you're 18 years old and you just went to college, or well, actually, when you're 18, you can start building your credit because legally you can't before you're 18 because no one can have a legal contract with a minor. But you can start building your credit at 18. What does that mean? Get a credit card, a student credit card if you're in school, and start building your credit history. The longer your credit history, the more points it will be on there. You have to start probably with a credit card unless you have money where you can afford to buy a car and have a secured loan, which is a car payment. But you need to start immediately. It's so important to create the length of your credit history. Even if you've had a longer credit history now and it's not positive, then you need to start over and start now. This makes up another section of your new credit takes up about 10% of your score. And what is meant by new credit is inquiries made onto your credit report. So therefore, if you already have 3 or 5 credit cards and you have a car loan and a mortgage and you have enough history in there. You just need to clean that part of it up by making the payments on time making sure you're not underwater in your loans, and making sure you're paying down your debt. If you don't have credit cards, if you don't have loans, when you do apply for those, make sure you do them quickly, because each inquiry stays on your credit report for 2 years. So don't go over to a department store for example, Kohl's, and they're going to give you 15% off of your discount. Well, they will run your credit, and that is a hard inquiry. That hard inquiry will stay on your credit report for 2 years. So think carefully before you make any of those choices. We'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. We talked about it, how to get some of those inquiries taken off that you may not have actually done, especially when you're online. Be very careful with making inquiries, looking into loans and so forth, because they will send it to many lenders and they can actually have a lot of inquiries on your credit without your approval. Maybe you're looking to refinance your house. You're looking at you go online, you submit to a loan finder that's going to find you 5 or 10 different loans. Well, guess what? They are going to run your credit, each one of those creditors, so you'll have 5 to 10 inquiries on your credit. This will drop your points 10%. That's very dangerous. Why? If you have a 700 credit point score and you drop 10%, you are down to a 630, and that is very dangerous. Okay, so be careful when applying for loans. And types of credit make up 10% of your score as well. Do you have credit cards? Do you have secured loans? For example, a car and home and something asset backed. Do you have unsecured loans? Do you have revolving accounts? These are the types of things that they look at. You want to have a variety of these. You don't want just all credit cards and 10 credit cards. That's not going to build your credit. What's going to build your credit is a variety of different, whether it's a loan with a bank, whether it's maybe 1 or 2 credit cards. I think the ideal amount is 2 major credit cards and 1 consumer card, or 3 major credit cards and 1 consumer card, making sure that you're paying all those on time. Do you have bank loans? Do you have student loans that you're making payments on, and so forth? These are the type of things that are going to help build your credit, the variety that they're looking for. Okay. What does your credit score mean? Well, you probably run a report. They give you a little bit of a rating in there. Well, this is really kind of what it comes down to. If your credit score is between 300 and 580, you'll be denied credit. Or you'll only be approved at the very highest, most costly interest rates, which means you're paying more than everybody else for everything because you're a high risk. So if you're a high risk, they're going to charge you high rates. If you're between 581 and 650, you may qualify for credit at a higher interest rate. You'll probably get credit, but you're going to pay more for it. That's all there is to it, because you're still in the risk area. If you're 650 to 710, you'll qualify, but at a moderate interest rate. You won't get the best rates, but you'll be at moderate rates. Okay, 711 to 750, you'll qualify for credit at a competitive interest rate. So it'll be decent, but really the whole key to this whole assignment, this whole deal, is to get yourself over 751, because then you'll get the lowest rates on the market, as well as credit cards, rewards. You'll be able to borrow more money, and that's good debt that is building more wealth for you. So the key, what we're working on, is trying to get that credit built up, hitting on all of those principles now that we know what they are, and working to get yourself not only out of debt, but to build that credit so that once you have good credit, things will be cheaper for you. You won't pay as much interest rates. Everything will be better off for you. What does bad credit mean? Other things. One, you're denied credit. You can't get credit. No one will borrow you any money. So if you can't get any credit, you can't get a car, you can't get loans, you can't get credit cards. It could be a problem for you. Second, you can get turned down for a job. Whether or not you believe it's fair or right, most places will run your credit when you apply. Now, you may say, oh, that's unconstitutional, or it's illegal, or it should be outlawed. Well, one, you sign it. Okay, they can't do it without your authorization, so you can say, no, I don't want you running my credit, and they can say, well, you don't get the job. They can run your credit, and they're protecting themselves as a business. If you have bad credit, if you have a lot of loans, they may, and I'm not saying they're right, but they may judge you and think, well, depending on the position, they might be likely to steal or take a bribe, or they're going to be stressed out because of all of these loans. They have to look at it. If you were a business owner, would you want someone that wasn't in debt working for you, has good credit, and is responsible with their debts, or someone who has terrible credit, owes a ton of money to a bunch of different places, they don't pay their bills on time? What looks better? What would you rather have as an employer if you were hiring someone? Think in those terms, and then you'll understand a little better instead of worrying about whether or not it's fair. You can also be denied life or auto insurance. Um, I know this doesn't seem fair either, but in most states, I think all of them now, you have to have mandatory auto insurance. So even if you can't, you might end up with a second-rate auto insurer that doesn't cover you because of low or bad credit. You can also be denied life insurance, which is terrible. What if you have a family you need to look out for? They think, well, they have a lot of debt. They don't take care of their credit. They're worth more dead than alive. They might get to the point, most divorces are caused from debt. There's many people that commit suicide over debt, and there's no reason to do it. All it takes is a little self-control, no matter where you're at in your life. And I've owed fortunes and gotten myself in that position. The key to this class is to keep you out of that so you don't get depressed. You don't get into the point where you feel like the world's weighed you down. And these are steps to take to get out of there. When you don't exercise, you don't feel good. When you exercise, you feel better. That's the key. When you owe a lot of money, you don't feel good. When you start exercising, paying off that money, you feel much better. That's what we're doing here. You're going to pay higher interest rates. That's all there is to it. You will. There's no question about that. You have a difficult time renting. Some places won't even rent to you with bad credit. Now you can't even get a place to live. You can't get a job. You can't get life and auto insurance. It's a terrible vicious circle. How do you get out of it if you can't do it? Well, there's ways to do it. And we'll explain those in a later lesson. And you could also be turned down for a government license or security clearance. Once again, whether or not it's fair or not, they're going to judge you by what you've done in the past, and including your credit and how well you're fiscally responsible monetarily, how much well you handle your money, and you can be turned down for licenses and clearance. It's just the way it is. So this is why you're doing this. If you've gotten to this lesson, you're probably tired. You might add a little bump up, but now you know why you're doing this. This is only to make your life easier. You got to work a little hard now. Create habits that you'll continue throughout your life and keep your credit up. Now, I'm going to give you the first tip for raising your credit score. We're going to go through several of the tips, and I'll go over most of them in more detail. This is the simplest one, and sometimes it's the hardest to do. Pay your bills on time. Okay? That's it. Pay your bills on time. You want to pay yourself, but you need to pay on time. That's the first one. And pay to first the people who collect or report to the credit agencies first. For example, I know in my own life that Nicor Gas reports to the credit agency. I know that my electric company, Commonwealth Edison, does not. Therefore, at the beginning of the month, if I'm hurting for cash, I pay my Nicor bill first, and then if I pay my Commonwealth Edison bill because they don't report. They'll charge me more fees. They'll not, I didn't pay the full amount. It's going to cost me more, but I've protected my credit score, and that's the most important thing you have to do. Protect your credit score. Create a list, find out who reports, and you find that right off of your credit score. Who reports to the agencies? Which ones do? You find out, you pay them first, then you work on the ones who don't, but you pay them something. Even if they don't report, you pay them something. All right, that's it. Pay on time, figure a way to do it, and you'll be on your way. All right, so this is the end of today. I will see you tomorrow. I appreciate all the hard work you guys are putting into it, and good luck. Go through that, understand it, go through this presentation again and again to truly understand how important your credit is and what the facets are and how you can fix them. Thank you.